Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, the Day webinar. So this is one of a number of webinars that we have in our webinar series. So today's webinar is Black Friday Made Easy. So firstly, I just want to thank everyone for joining this afternoon. The webinar should last around sort of 30 minutes or so, but we do have quite a packed content to actually get through. But first of all, I just want to thank everyone for sending their questions through. I know that you were asked as you registered if there were any key questions for this Q&A, and we've had a number of questions come through which we will look to go through in this afternoon's discussion. Firstly, I'd just like to give you a bit of an introduction as to who I am. So I am the Senior Customer Solutions Manager here at Day. And just to kind of give you a bit of a sense of my background, I've worked in the tech/customer experience industry for the best part of the last 15 years, having held roles at companies like IBM, Oracle, and Capita. I've had the great opportunity to work with a number of big brands, retail brands here in the UK, and also some brands out in the US as well. Now, e-commerce for me, really, if I look 10 or 15 years ago, was very much around trying to get your customers to actually start going online and buying more and being able to give them more of a personalized experience. So it's trying to transition them from in-store behavior and trying to get them to your online stores. Now that in itself, all those years ago, had a number of challenges in itself, trying to find the right platform to build your e-commerce store on. At the same time, understanding what your customers are actually doing once they found your online store. So there were a number of things really that were implemented over the last 10, 15 years, such as marketing tools, digital analytics, to kind of give you a sense of what your customers are doing and being able to really build profiles and personas to understand, okay, this is the type of customer, this is what we should be recommending from a product standpoint, and really personalizing their experience when they visited your website. And that's all good because as we look at the industry today, that continues to grow, and more and more younger generations who sort of born in the digital world kind of expect to be able to go online and buy things via their tablet or via their phones. But there is, and that seamless journey, without the human interaction, but there are still situations and instances where people do need that human interaction. So as we all like to feel that we've got everything in place for people to have those smooth journeys online. But unfortunately, when you start hitting those sort of peak times of the year, so one of the events we will be talking about today is Black Friday. But I don't want to just limit this to Black Friday. Depending on what you do as an organization, you might have other peak periods in the year, such as if you're a paint manufacturer or you sell paint, or if you sell garden furniture. Now's a perfect example for when you might have a peak season. And normally the reasons really are where a consumer at some point needs to speak to someone regarding their order for various reasons. So we'll talk about that in a bit more detail and how we can sort of handle those peak volumes and these compelling events throughout the year. But firstly, what I wanted to do was give you a bit of a background into who we are. So we are Day. So we are the next generation of CX outsourcing. So we see ourselves as a bit of a disruptor in the market. We are one of the, if not the largest CX marketplace in Europe. We have over 15,000 verified sales and customer service experts worldwide. We support over 35 languages at a native level. And we support over 100 countries, hosting over 14,000 micro locations. And we are growing by the day. So at the moment, we have just over 450 employees. But that number, as I said, keeps growing. And we are, growing aggressively. And so this trajectory that we're on will continue to grow. So that's just a little bit of a background as to who we are. We are headquartered in Germany, but we are international. We do have offices around Europe. We do have presence in the UK, and we also have presence in the US as well. But like I said, we'll go into a bit more detail around the specifics around what we do in a bit more detail later on in the presentation. Which really does lead me into the main premise of this webinar, which is the Q&A. So again, thank you everyone for sending your questions in. We've had to go through quite a lot of them. And what we've done is we've narrowed it down to 4 key questions. And a lot of them were sort of repetitive in the sense that a lot of the same questions were asked, just phrased differently. So we will look at the 4 that seem to have come up more and probably are more relevant to this webinar. So the first question we had was, what strategies should companies implement in the run-up to high peak periods, such as Black Friday, to optimize their customer service? So it's quite a broad question in the sense that, you know, there are so many different elements to look at, not just, I guess, from a human customer service point of view, but just operations as a whole. There's so many different aspects. So one thing I would always advise, and this is really from experience, is really planning before the event. So if we're looking at Black Friday, you know, this is something that happens, you know, towards, you know, the end of Q4. So the perfect time to really start planning for that is around now, really, July, sort of August time, and to really try and forecast as accurately as possible based on the data that's available to you. So you'll have data from previous years, from the same sort of events, and what the issues were, what the volumes were like, you know, how many people were coming to the website, how many people were phoning in. Now, if you're looking to sort of grow year on year around these events, then you need to obviously add that buffer in as well, and expect there to be an even more of an increase this time around. Training staff, I think, well in advance of these events is also a really good practice. So making sure people are equipped with the right knowledge, the right sort of, I guess, making them understand the types of issues that we may possibly run into on these days. So trying to get that training in place is very important. Cross-channel support. So organizations now tend to offer different channels of communication with their customers, be it email, be it chat, whether it be social media. So if you are offering these channels, I think it's really important that on the other end, that you always have some form of a presence to be able to answer any queries coming through these channels. And really automating simple processes can also reduce the burden. Now, obviously, the more complex your processes are, the harder it becomes to automate. But sort of, you know, people have implemented things like chatbots, which are a good idea for sort of, you know, more general type of inquiries. So things like delivery dates, etc. I think, you know, Amazon's a very good example of how they do this. And then another thing really is IT infrastructure. Now, you know, I think we're a lot better than we are from an infrastructure standpoint. I still remember days when people couldn't get into websites on the day of Black Friday, or there used to be a queuing system to try and get in, and before someone would get in, they'd be kicked off, and they'd have reasons to call up customer support for those types of issues. So you've got to expect the increased traffic and load, and there could be sort of, you know, website payment systems and customer service platforms that you need to make sure are fully equipped and robust enough to kind of handle the amount of traffic that will be coming your way on these specific days. And another key thing is communication, really sort of anticipating those customer queries that may come up. Like I said, you know, you'll probably know the types of customer queries that you get from previous times where you've had these types of events, and really communicating with your customers, making sure that, you know, if there is a query, that the customer is being notified of what's going on with the query, and how long it will take for there to be some sort of a resolution for the customer. And I think that's really important. I think one thing we need to think about as well is that Black Friday is not just a day anymore. It really is an event that carries on for the course of a week now. And that's followed up by things like Cyber Monday. Then you've also got the annual holidays, so if you're based in the US, so things like Thanksgiving, and then you also have Christmas. So it's one thing sort of gearing up for the actual event itself, but then you have to also look at the fallout of the event. So what will happen sort of after the event? And the chances are that that's also another time when you probably have a lot of call volumes, where people have now got their product and are not happy with it, want to return it, or there's an issue with it, or there's an issue with delivery. So this whole is not just for the event itself. This can follow on for weeks after the event as well. So I think when you look at peak periods, especially in traditional e-commerce businesses, your peaks probably start around October, November, and they probably carry on till late January, because you'll still probably have the fallout from things like Christmas and everything else going into the new year. So it's really important, I think, during this period that you have the right amount of headcount, dedicated teams for these peaks, and that you're also really having your data to back all of this up as well. So real-time monitoring, having the right feedback loops in place. And like I said, there'll be a number of reasons for why customers will want to phone up after the event or during the event. Could be anything to do with technical issues on the website. It could be that they're trying to check out and they just can't get to the checkout process. Could be something simple like changing the browser, for example. And someone like me, I will probably do that, but there are so many other people out there that probably don't have the knowledge that all they need to simply do is change browser and they'll be able to check out. So it's all those types of things why people would usually call in. It could also be to do with they put the wrong delivery address and they placed the order, and now they need to ring someone up and get the address changed. So like there's, as I said, there could be a lot of complex reasons for why someone will need some sort of human interaction. So those would be my key, I guess, examples of the types of issues that you have and sort of the things you need to bear in mind when you're leading up to these peak periods. Moving on, we also had a question around our outsourcing partner has a long lead time to recruit talents for the seasonal peak periods. Are there other solutions? So yeah, so I think, relying on sort of a single outsourcing partner can be, I guess, over-reliant. I think sometimes working with multiple vendors can give you more flexibility and reduce the risk of those recruitment delays. And I think that's always the hard part, because you kind of know there's a peak coming up. You're not too sure of how many people you may need, but you kind of start looking for talents, and then you've got that whole process of recruiting, the vetting, knowing that, whether you've got the right skills. So I think sometimes if you work across multiple vendors, you can sort of diversify that risk. But at the same time, the downside of that is it does take a lot of effort, and it is very, very time consuming. Another recommendation is you could build a talent overflow pool. So, work with your partners, if you have some that you're working with at the moment, to build a pool of talents that can be mobilized quickly during these periods. And that this can include a list of pre-screened candidates who can be onboarded quickly. So that will help in, rapid mobilization of additional talents. But again, I think the downside to that, it can be very expensive, it can be time consuming, and it can be difficult to implement. And lastly, you could go for a flexible workforce model. You could have, this will help really in allowing for that rapid scale up and scale down as you need. And this could include part-time employees, it could include freelancers, or other solutions. But again, you would need to be working with partners who have that sort of infrastructure in place where they're able to kind of do this for you and have this set up so they're able to kind of fulfill those needs as and when you need them, which can be quite challenging. Moving on. One of the things that we have worked on is really our own model and how we can sort of help organizations in some of these challenges. So we have a very flexible, adaptive model. So when it comes to these types of situations, we're able to kind of really jump on things and in real time, increase productivity, increase talents as and when people need. So if we just take this, for example, just take, you have, 100 base staff, we know that, planned productivity is probably around 70 or 80%. And that's reflective of, call distribution, reliability, breaks, buffer, etc. But, we can increase that productivity push by another 10 to 25% through, sort of increased call clocking, status management, and time handling. We can then also have a standby team that's there for, another additional 20-25% of talents for each shift, as your business recommends, for the peak volumes. And then we also have, I guess, another buffer, which is activation of talents without a planned shift. So a lot of our talents, circa sort of work around 25 hours per week on average. So we can activate those additional talents on projects quite easily for these peak situations. So in under a week, we could have sourced, we could have trained all the individuals you need really to kind of keep up with the call volumes that you're expecting. Now, one of the things in this is it's not a case of, okay, you're committing to having a load of these people there and you've got to pay for them. So the way our model really works is you only really pay for productivity. So therefore there's no financial downside. So you've got the, I guess, peace of mind that you've got people there as and when you need them, but you're not having to commit to actually taking on a load of people and then having to pay for them. So it will only really be financially, you will only need to really pay for anything when that agent becomes productive. And moving on to question 3, it's a challenge for us to find the right qualified agents from our outsourcing partner. How can we get the right qualified agent? And that's, again, a good question. When we think about BPOs, when we think about partners or outsourcing, is very much looked through a lens of the local market, so in-country talent. And I think sometimes that's, the biggest challenge, because you've got a small pool of talent and everyone's trying to get these talents in at these specific times, which can be difficult to find the right skills and kind of find the right people. So as we said, the model we took was really a decentralized talent pool. So not just looking what's within the country, but also globally and unlocking the best talent globally. So it could well be that, let's take English, for example. So you may need talents that speak English very, very well. And we may have talents that have lived in England, speak English very well, but have decided to move, I don't know, to the Philippines. And now they live there, but they speak very good English. They have all the skills required to do the job. So those are the sort of talents that we have around the world. And we have a lot of talent that's also bilingual as well. So we have talents that can support more than one language. So I think once you start opening and you start unlocking, I guess, the global pool, it's a lot easier to try and find the right talent quicker than it would be if you're just looking through a small pool, a small pond, I guess. So I think with us, we can find the right qualified agents, talents quite quickly, just because of the fact that we're able to source globally, and we already have a number of these talents already on our platform. And the second thing, which leads me on to it really, is the power of community. So a lot of the talents that we've onboarded on our platform over a number of years really have come through word of mouth. So their own personal connections, people that they know in the industry. So, with all of our talents, we also have, talent team leads. So if you had a specific project, for example, that would be managed by a talent team lead that we would also supply you. So all of these guys have been in the industry for a number of years. And so they know a lot of people within their network. And so from just our relationships with them, we've been able to really build on this. And that's where we've built this power of community. So we have a lot of, like I said, good skills already on our platform. And just taking it a step further, just going back to, I guess, what I talked about at the start of this webinar. This is, I guess, the advantages, as I said, from having that decentralized global talent pool, the fact that we've got over 15,000 and this is always growing, and the fact that, we're supporting over 35 languages. And, we try to focus on 4 key sectors as well. So we're not someone who tries to do a bit of everything. We know the talents we have, we know the skill sets they have, and we tend to focus on 4 key verticals. So telcos, utilities, e-commerce, and tourism. And so the average age as well of our talents is 43. So there is, our talents do have a lot of experience, and they've worked for a number of organizations over the years. And a great thing about this really is the fact that, the way we reward our talents is slightly different to how traditional call center agents are remunerated. So because we don't have the, I guess, traditional call center costs, such as, real estate, and all of our talents are freelancers that are on our platform. They're able to work remotely from wherever they are. So because we don't have those additional sort of costs, we're able to pay our talents more. And what that means is our talents are a lot more happier. They're getting remunerated better than what they would do in a traditional call center. And they got the flexibility to work across different projects, which is great for them. They get to not just be on one project for a specific period of time, they can then move on to something else. And so the variety as well, I guess, of the projects that are available is another thing that keeps them motivated and keeps them happy. And another thing to point out as well is through all the savings we make, through the way that we work, we also pass those savings back to our customers as well. So that's why we would traditionally, compared to, I say, traditional call centers, that's why we're able to kind of come up with these flexible models and kind of make savings where we can, and obviously pass that saving back to you as the customer, and also being able to sort of remunerate our talents more than traditional ways. And that then moves me on to our sort of last question, really. And this one was another one that came up quite a few times. How can AI help during seasonal peak periods such as Black Friday and Christmas? So I guess the way we look at AI, I mean, there is a lot of talk about AI at the moment, just everywhere. I think any sort of tech show you go to now, I think the agenda will be packed with topics around AI and how AI is going to change everything. So I think the way I see AI, I'll probably take a step back and would really look at AI as in the same way that I think we look at a lot of things that have sort of come over the last sort of 10 or 15 years. If I go back sort of 10, 15 years, everything was about digital transformation. And there was a lot of tools, the whole thing from moving from on-premise to cloud, and how it was a good thing to move everything from on-premise to cloud. And then that theory changed over the years, and it was like, okay, well, maybe a hybrid model is a bit better. So I think the danger with anything that's new on the market is the rush to get that thing. And sometimes what ends up happening is you end up sort of investing in something that you're actually not really seeing the gains from. And, sometimes things are sort of left on the shelf, and a lot of investment has actually gone into these things to begin with. So my recommendation is to always, from an AI perspective, no matter what you're doing within your business and how you're looking at AI, is to actually look at the business challenges you're trying to solve. And if AI is an answer to any of those, really look at it and think, okay, by implementing this, is this going to actually make us better? Is this going to solve the actual challenge? Now, another way I see AI is that, people are kind of thinking that it might replace certain processes and people. Where it can sort of help with processes and everything else, I think AI should be used to enhance people and enhance processes rather than replacing people and processes. So I guess there are three sort of pillars that we put our focus with AI around. So it's really around how can we use AI to kind of help with efficiency gains. So how can we use AI to kind of give a direct P&L impact? How can we use AI for enablement? So, how can we leverage, I guess, also AI for innovation, for growth? So a lot of stuff, what we do with some of our existing customers is we have think tanks, user groups where we talk to our customers to try and find out, okay, so how are they kind of using our services today? What is it that, they would like to see from an innovation standpoint? And then we look at, okay, so how can AI help us with some of that innovation? We do pilots with our customers. And if we look to kind of launch a feature, we kind of ask our other customers to say, look, we're thinking of this as a customer who's asked for this. we're also thinking of sort of implementing this into our platform. Is this something that's going to be sort of good for you as well? And if we find that actually there is something that we can do that is going to be helpful to all of our customers, and it's something we look to deliver. So again, there is a lot of thought process that goes around how we use AI and what initiatives we use it for. But ultimately, when we think about call center and how it can kind of help with call agents and enhancing call agents, there's two areas really that I wanted to talk about today. And the first one really is AI Assist, which is available today within our services. And this really is, trying to help your agents with things such as, what sometimes is, the right thing to say on a call, so conversation guides, being able to kind of get better engagement, making sure they're compliant and that they are talking the right language that your company would want them to speak with. And I think at the same time, this also highlights training issues. So, for example, if one call, if it's a similar query and that's come in and there's two different call agents handling the same query, it might take one call agent a lot longer to solve that than someone else. And there may be reasons for that. It could be that the one agent is obviously trained a lot better than the other. So it can highlight sort of things of that nature. What's a good call, customer service call versus a bad customer call? How long did it take to kind of resolve this? Where are we actually spending most of our time in bottlenecks, for example? So I think with that, it's great. It's a great guide and it's great for training purposes. And at the same time, it really does help agents in real time come up with suggestive things that they could potentially say to customers when certain objections may come up on a call. And just to kind of highlight that we do have a virtual call center as well. So all of these features I'm talking about now are embedded as part of that virtual call center, which is provided to all of our customers as well, and is part of our managed service. So if you did take on, say, Yoomday for a project, for example, you would have access to this platform. And there's a load of other stuff you can do in that as well. You can automate workflows. There's quality assurance. Talents can go into the system and plan their shifts. You can evaluate calls through the platform as well, have a look at call recordings, etc. So it encompasses a lot of the stuff. And I think another good example really of why I think it's good to work with an outsourcing partner is that you can take advantage of some of the technology and innovation, sometimes trying to build these things in-house or trying to build these tools from scratch, or even investing in separate tools, for example, can become quite costly. So if you kind of just hand the service on to somebody else, they'll be able to kind of provide you with the talent that you need, but at the same time, it's all underpinned by innovative technology as well. And I guess the other element as well that's available at the moment in our platform is the voice of the customer. So what we're trying to do is really try and capture conversations and really recognize really the intent of a customer. And so looking for certain keywords, and it could be sort of a day where you're kind of having these large call volumes where everyone is experiencing a similar issue. And again, with the voice of the customer, we're able to kind of identify that through the language. Really, actually, are customers all complaining about the same thing? Every customer we've spoken to in the last hour has mentioned payment issues. So things of that nature will give you all of the drill down capabilities to gain those insights very, very quickly and in real time. And so what that'll help with things like peak periods is be able to kind of be proactive and work in real time to kind of go in and address those issues before they become a more of an issue further down the line. So again, another key area that we are introducing in our platform. Now we will continue to invest more in our AI. We have a product team that is always working in innovation and adding in new features all the time. And like I said, our roadmap is evergreen. So all of the features we add, once you're a customer, you will always have, I guess, access to this platform, and any features we add, you as a customer will be able to consume those as well. Another thing I really did want to talk about as well is commitment, I guess, with regards to how it works if you were to use our services moving forward. There are no long-term commitments. We can also do things such as POC. If there are sort of compelling events like Black Friday where you need to use our services, we can come in for a period of time and scale up with you when you guys need it. And scale down, I guess, when you need it too. So there is a lot of flexibility in what we offer. But really, I think today was more of a case of trying to discuss some of these elements and trying to give some sort of guidance into how you can solve some of these issues that present themselves around these peak periods. Now, I know I've rattled through quite a lot there, and I will look through the Q&A to see if anyone has left any questions. So if there are any questions, there is our Q&A tab. So please feel free. Do not leave comments in the chat, please. If you could use the Q&A, that'll be great. And I'll have a look in a moment to see if we do have anything. But one thing I did want to leave you with is my contact details as well. As I said, I am the Senior Customer Solution Manager here at Yoomday. If you've got any further questions off the back of this webinar, the webinar is recorded. So, this will be something that you will be able to take forward with you, and we can sort of send these out. But if you do have any other additional questions, please feel free to email me directly on my email address there. And also, we've got a host of lots more content as well on our website. So feel free to go on www.yoomday.com, where you can find a lot more information as well. And with that said, I'll close the call. Thank you so much again for everyone that joined this afternoon. I hope this was informative. And like I said, we're always here, ready to help. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. And thank you for your time.